Hello, it is August 20th, and it is 9:29 p.m. The thing that I wanted to talk about is the fact that the people that are testifying against me in the trial right now are people like Gasha Ferozvi, Adnan Shamim, or Adnan Shamim's brother, or Shahina Shamim's kids. The fact of the matter is, the men that are over here right now testifying against me, like Gasha Ferozvi and Adnan Shamim, are people that Kelly from law enforcement slept with. And if you watch my earlier video, you will see exactly how much Kelly from law enforcement actually ran after me, including today, August 20th at 2:25 p.m. As soon as a revelation came out about my brain savant that made my brain savant extremely rare and profitable, Kelly from law enforcement touched my tongue and then made my rectum wet at exactly 2:25 p.m. on August 20th, that is today. Kelly from law enforcement did this before, around July 18, and on July 18, I made a very alarming video about Kelly from law enforcement, letting government know that she was going to pursue me very aggressively. She did so in 3 days' time. She decided that there was no point in caring about what the government did or did not think, and Kelly from law enforcement started putting up very dirty videos on my YouTube, as is shown in the previous video. Starting July 21st, she did it almost every single day. Then what ended up happening was law enforcement would not accept the answer that artificial intelligence gave about my brain savant, due to which law enforcement instead started to analyze my brain savant on a daily basis all day long through artificial intelligence, only because artificial intelligence could read the data and speak. What ended up happening was Kelly from law enforcement put up very dirty pictures of girls, meeting girls on these dating websites, and after which time what ended up happening was Kelly from law enforcement then started pursuing me this very week by having my neighbor seduce me, a girl from my neighborhood who my own neighbor, who is a married woman living with her husband, would wear short clothes and then walk her dog right outside my balcony to try to seduce me. I then started to close my blinds, knowing what Kelly from law enforcement was doing to try to aggressively seduce and pursue me by trying to get what a neighbor of mine, she's not letting me talk, who was her friend, to try to seduce me towards her. I then closed the blinds, and that neighbor of mine, before I closed my blinds, what Kelly from law enforcement would do is tell that neighbor of mine the exact timing when the blinds would be open, so that she would walk right past my balcony, walking her dog, wearing very short clothes, and I just wouldn't look towards her. I just know that she would, because this is obviously what she would do. But the facts and evidences will prove that I would not even look towards her, and I would not even know that it's that she's passing by. But as soon as I would hear her dog, I would just look away, and I know for a fact that that's what she would do. She would wear very short clothing to try to seduce me. Then I started to close my blinds this very week, and Kelly from law enforcement then had her friend have her dog literally bark outside my window, at which time I told both of them to get the heck off my face and leave me the heck alone. I did not want to be annoyed by anyone, which is why I was having my blinds closed. So Kelly from law enforcement, what she ended up doing is she ended up sleeping with people like Gasha Ferozvi or Adnan Shamim, and having them get revenge on me by making sure my brain savant would not get freed, by having them narrate in this trial against me. After all the false testimonies have already gotten caught, with November 20th, early January, early April, and the one in July that was made by Ibrahim the Greedy Framer, the only thing that they have is to say that when I was a child being adult supervised by one of law enforcement's own BFFs, like Uncle Joey, he could have said something even remotely considered bad around me as a child, only until I gained a slightest bit of mental maturity. The thing that the courts have to understand is the fact that in the wedding crime, the only name, now the witness for this is law enforcement themselves. The people in law enforcement right now against me, you can ask them, they will tell you that there was only one name I was given, except for that there was a wedding crime when they were trying to frame me for the wedding crime. One name and one name only that they gave me for the wedding crime, and that was Shahina Shamim. which means that Shahina Shamim, not only her name, but also the fact that when she would call at my house, they would use the same drugs on me to let me know that this is the person that they were referring to with severe mental torture drugs. So basically, they were trying to frame me, law enforcement were, but they only gave me one name, and that was Shahina Shamim. If you don't believe me, my witnesses are the best witnesses in the world. They're the people right now against me. You can ask them. They will tell you that they only gave me one name for the wedding crime, and that name was Shahina Shamim. So if Shahina Shamim, as an adult, committed the wedding crime, she knew about the wedding crime, she was fully aware of the wedding crime, it occurred in front of her, it occurred by her, most probably, obviously, she was an adult. She knew what was going on, and obviously I'm not going to use the same rhetoric about how Uncle Joey's mother would have talked about it in front of this person or that person. Since this is the only name I've been given, I know for a fact that this person definitely committed the crime, and the law enforcement wanted me framed along with this person. The question that has to be asked for Kashif Firozvi and Adnan Shamim are, how is it that a child being adult supervised by an adult who'd never even committed a crime around the child has the child being blamed for what the adult could have said around the child when it's clear that it was due to the force and necessity of a single mother, only temporarily, daily, only until the child gained the slightest bit of mental maturity, and never again to be even remotely present in a setting where anything even remotely considered bad could be said around the child ever again, since he gained the slightest bit of mental maturity, with his mother not even being there when the child was being adult supervised, making it the fault of the adult who said it, like Uncle Joey or law enforcement's other BFFs whom they commit them sex schemes and money fraud with right now as we speak. They're not letting me speak. How is it that it's a child's fault over there, even though the child was already talked about by the mother till the child became slightly mentally mature in the world, and never again even remotely present in any settings where anything even remotely considered bad could be said around the child ever again, while it is not the fault of Shahina Shamim, who was an adult at the wedding, in the wedding crime. She was fully taking part in the crime. She knew about the crime. She knew exactly what was going on. She had probably committed it herself. She took a hand in that crime. She never reported a thing about what she knew about to anyone. And she was an adult. She was present in a crime. She committed a crime. She never reported it, obviously, because she committed it. How is that adult not being blamed for a crime that she knew about, she committed, and she was fully involved in, and yet a child around whom there's no crime committed, but merely anything even remotely considered bad being said, even temporarily, daily, only until the child gains slightest bit of mental maturity as a child, never again in any settings where anything you remotely considered bad could be said around the child ever again. How is it that it is not the child's fault, even though the mother had already taken permission from law enforcement when I was an 11-year-old child, letting them know it would only be until I would gain the slightest bit of mental maturity? And you know for a fact that it was due to the force and necessity of a single mother, since it was only until I gained the slightest bit of mental maturity as a child. And the other piece of evidence is the fact that I was a member of the PAL Center, mainly a charitable place run by police officers at the time, to give basically a daycare center for children whose mothers cannot afford daycare, where I was registered completely at. How is it that this is basically the child's fault, even though the child's mother had already talked with law enforcement? The mother is never present where anything even remotely considered bad could be said around the child, only temporarily, daily, only until the child gains the slightest bit of mental maturity as a child, never again even remotely present in any settings where anything even remotely considered bad could be said around the child ever again. From the moment the child gains the slightest bit of mental maturity as a child, is able to be liable under the law. He's never even remotely present in any settings where anything even remotely considered bad could be said around the child. Even before then, it was never a crime, never an attempted crime, never a conspiracy to commit a crime ever done around that child ever, which means that the child wasn't even remotely present in any crime scenes, never knew about any crimes, never anything of attempted crimes, never knew about any conspiracy to commit any crimes, and yet over here, it was all after the child was only being adult supervised by one of law enforcement's own BFFs like Uncle Joey or other ones that they might run sex schemes or money fraud with, and only after the child's mother had already gotten permission from law enforcement for the child to be there in the first place. And when the child was an 11-year-old child, and only until the child gained the slightest bit of mental maturity as a child. How is it that this is supposed to be basically the child's fault? Or even the mother's fault when the mother's not even present there? It's only due to the force and necessity of the single mother after she gets permission. And we know for a fact that it's due to the force and necessity of a single mother due to me, the child being a member of the PAL Center, which is going to have their registration. I can guarantee you, it's just one index card. My mother signed me up, and she was talking about it August 11th at 7:30 p.m. in my car. That she remembers the day when she had to sign me up herself, really clearly. So she doesn't know what the right or wrong answer is, so she's telling the truth. So all these facts and evidences combined clearly prove that the child really needed adult supervision only until he gained the slightest bit of mental maturity. But even then, he was never present in any settings where any crime could have been committed, any attempted crimes could have been committed, any conspiracy to commit any crimes could have been committed ever throughout the entire time he was a child being adult supervised by any of the adults. The question that Kashif Firozvi and Adnan Shamim and people that Kelly from law enforcement slept with and asked them to make a testimony against me to try to make sure that my brain savant money cannot go to anyone else's daughter if it's not going to her. And we know this for a fact since today at 2:25 p.m., August 20th, there was a revelation made through artificial intelligence experts about my brain savant, its rarity and profitability, due to which Kelly from law enforcement started touching my tongue and then making my rectum feel wet. So basically, yes. Then she runs after me really aggressively, dirty as, then tries to get one of my neighbors to seduce me so I would sleep with her in order to go with Kelly, all these things, but it doesn't work out. She sleeps with or has already slept with people like Kashif Firozvi, Adnan Shamim, and then uses them to make testimonies against me, make sure that brain savant money that's not going to her cannot go to anyone else. Now, the question that I have to ask Adnan Shamim and Kashif Firozvi is, why is it the child's fault if anyone said anything bad around the child when the mother is not even present there and the child's only there temporarily, daily, only until the child gains a slightest bit of mental maturity, when it's not the adult's fault or the people in law enforcement who knew about it since 2001 could not care less about anything even remotely considered bad being said around the child since I was an 11-year-old child in 2001 when the war occurred. No crimes, no attempted crimes, no conspiracy to commit any crimes. But how is it not Shahina Shamim's fault as an adult who knew about the wedding crime, was fully involved in it, was at the scene of the crime, at the wedding, committing the crime? She committed it, and that is probably why law enforcement completely covered it over, because one of their BFFs like Shahina Shamim committed it, but they wanted me framed for it, which is why they were using the wedding crime against me. Anyways, you can ask law enforcement yourself. The people that are against me right now in law enforcement will testify to the courts that except for the word wedding, when they were trying to frame me for the crime that they confessed themselves that I had nothing to do with, the only name that they gave me was Shahina Shamim, which means she fully committed that crime. She attempted it. She committed it. She was fully a part of it. And why is it that an adult who commits a crime like Shahina Shamim is not going to be liable for that crime that was committed? She knew about, she never reported because she committed herself. But me as a child is liable for some thing that an adult around me could have said while I was only being adult supervised by the adult, only temporarily, daily, only until I gained the slightest bit of mental maturity. Never again even remotely present in any settings where anything remotely considered bad could have been said around me ever again. And even that was duration of time was even after my mother had already gotten permission from law enforcement when I was an 11-year-old child. And the facts and evidences will clearly prove that will also prove the facts and evidences will also prove the fact that I was also a member of the PAL Center, which will prove clearly the fact that it was due to the force and necessity of a single mother that I had to be adult supervised by anyone willing to watch me for free. But the question I have to ask is, why is it not Shahina Shamim's fault that she was involved in the wedding crime? Why should she not be prosecuted for it while she was involved in the wedding crime? She fully knew about it. She knew about what was going on. She knew about every single thing that was going going on, and yet she did absolutely nothing about it. Yes, that is the thing I have to say for people like Kashif Firozvi and Adnan Shamim. But the other thing I have to say is there's only one person that they could be quoting who hasn't been caught with a billion lies, and that is Adamji from pharmacy school. Now, the thing that you have to know about Adamji from pharmacy school is he was caught fabricating over and over and over and over again throughout the entire month of July. And then even when he was fabricating with the person named Abdullah who fabricated the group chat testimony against me, false testimony against me. Well, not even in the same time period I was overseas, that group chat false testimony that occurred. And they were both fabricating false testimonies against me throughout the entire month of July against me to try to frame me. They were caught over and over and over and over again throughout the entire month of July, fabricating false testimonies against me. First, it was Abdullah who fabricated the group chat false testimony against me. He got completely caught. It wasn't even in the same time period I was overseas, due to which he was fully caught, and we found out that Abdullah knowingly misled the court and this trial by fully fabricating this false testimony against me with the person in law enforcement who fabricated the false testimony, who gets the monthly money every month. But what Abdullah does after he gets caught is he says, I've been caught lying. He hasn't. He can still testify. And then he gave the spokesperson stand over to Adamji that Adamji fabricates the entire month of July over and over and over and over again with Abdullah and Maruk. Then both Abdullah, Adamji, and Maruk are caught numerous times fabricating false testimonies against me. Then they play that same game of deception with the courts and this trial by playing that same game where they're like, I have been caught falsely testifying, fabricating. He's been caught. She's been caught. I've been caught. Adamji's been caught. Abdullah's been caught. Maruk's been caught. He hasn't been caught. He's the fifth person, except for the person in law enforcement getting the money every month. He hasn't been caught. He can still testify. They got a fifth person to testify against me on August the 7th. This fifth person, first of all, everything about it was fake and false. The evidence that they showed to prove that I knew him really well was one text message that I ever made to this person, and it had the word Johnny in it, which means love. And he said the word Johnny to me. I said Johnny back to him. And what ended up happening was Adamji knew that he couldn't find any text messages except for that one. And he made that one text message look like me and that guy, we would both talk to each other before going to sleep every night, sharing all our secrets with each other. Even though Adamji knew that was the only text message I made to that person ever in my life. And before that text message, right before it, law enforcement had on record, on file, every single second I was overseas, proving through facts and evidences that this person that I only texted one time, only because I texted him the word Johnny, which means love, there was no record of me talking to him in person. Every single second was on record, by the way, that I was overseas. So I've never talked to him on person. I have never talked to him online, never talked to him on the phone. And that one text message that he sent me where he said, use the word Johnny, and I used the word Johnny back, which means love, Adamji used as evidence to claim that I knew this person really well, even though Adamji knew that that was the only text message he could find of me and him. And Adamji also knew that every single second I was overseas was looked at to try to find evidence of me being a drug addict or sexually perverted, and they found absolutely nothing, which means that there was no evidence of me even talking to this person who used the word Johnny or love with me, and I used the word love back with him. Adamji knew that I never talked to him in person. I never texted him except for that one text, and I never talked to him on the phone, which means that this person, Adamji, was fully fabricating this false testimony by first misleading the courts and the trial into thinking that I knew him really well, even though he knew that this was also a lie. And then he gave Adamji, Abdullah, and Maruk, and the person in law enforcement overseas who gets the monthly money every month, gave this person 50 different lies to make against me on August the 7th. This is how the Adamji, Maruk, Abdullah have played this trial and deceived them over and over and over again. They played the game, I've been caught lying, he hasn't. Then he went over, Abdullah went over to Adamji. Adamji said, I've been caught lying, she hasn't. Went over to Maruk. Then she said, I've been caught lying, he hasn't. Went over to the fifth person, except for that person in law enforcement overseas who gets the monthly money every month. And then after the fifth person, we found out that these people were fabricators, liars who were extremely envious of me. And Adamji is on record record saying, I'm extremely envious of Hassan and everyone who lives overseas. I wish I could have gotten them kicked out of their country over there and pushed back over to their country back. Adamji said this on the record with his own voice. He said he's extremely envious of me and other people that live overseas, and he said, I'm extremely envious of people like Hassan who lives overseas. I wish I could have gotten them kicked out of that country, pushed them back over to this country back. So not only is a fabricator, liar, but his envy has also been confessed. So there's no doubt about it. He played a game with the courts. Him, Abdullah Mahrukh, and the person in law enforcement overseas played a game with the courts where they said, I've been caught lying numerous times. He hasn't. He has been caught lying numerous times. She hasn't. She said, I've been caught lying numerous times. He hasn't. They put it over to a fifth person, with the fourth being the person in law enforcement overseas who gets the monthly money every month on August the 7th. And that after this fifth person was found out to be a complete and total fabricator, liar, whom there was no record of me even knowing except for that one text where he just happened to use the word Johnny, and he just asked me for my number and I gave it to him like how you do everyone at school, or you don't want anyone to hate you at school, not like you. So yes, he used the word Johnny on me, I used the word Johnny back, and then he used that text to mislead the courts. And then he gave that person 50 different lies to make against me. That's how much fabrication that Adamji, Mahrukh, and Abdullah have already done against me, with except not even counting the group chat false testimony. Obviously, that's a big one, but they made so many false testimonies against me that we're not even counting that one that they made against me. So yes, these people are not, they're envious. They're confessed to being envious against me. They're fabricators. They confess to fabricating against me on tape, on video, over and over and over and over again. You cannot take their lies and repeat it and make it seem like it's nothing to be worrying about. Obviously, they're confessing to lying. They're confessing to it being extreme envy. They're showing how they're lying and fabricating. They're even showing how they make fabricated evidence by using one text message that they know is only one, make it seem like I knew this person really well before giving him 50 different lies to make against me, making it look like I knew this person really well, and then throwing my name through the mud by using all these lies against me. So, I mean, this is no source to be using, considering the fact that it's confessed lie. The evidence, fabricated evidence, was one text message that they knew was fabricated, was confessed. It was only one text message. They knew I did not know this person. Every single thing that Adamji said was a confessed lie, and he said his motive was, he said, in his own words, he said, I'm extremely envious of Hassan and people that live overseas. I wish I could have gotten them kicked out of that country, pushed them back to their own countries. His words. He even confessed the motive after fabricating. He showed how he fabricated by using fabricated evidence to make the person look like someone I knew really well. And then he gave that person 50 different lies to make against me. So the evidence is right there. This is no source of info. This is an envious person and a group of envious people fabricating together due to their extreme envy against me with a motive that's been confessed. There's nothing more to say about this except for the fact that my entire time overseas is on record every single second, with it being already scanned through right now just recently to find evidence of me being either a drug addict or sexually perverted, with nothing that these people claimed against me having an iota of evidence, despite me being under watch 24/7, not 1 second spared, with these tools that are so good at following me and watching me and listening to me that I cannot go to Antarctica and get my brain savant freed. And you can ask law enforcement, they will tell you. Yes, so it's impossible for their false testimony to be true. For one, they had these tools around my ears to make sure my brain savant could not get freed that I didn't even know about. There wasn't one word that I could say in Antarctica that they could not hear about from me. Okay, the entire time it was all on record, on file, not 1 second missed. Apart from that, Adamji is confessing that he's lying. He's confessing to the motive behind why he's lying. It's impossible for him to be right, is my point. I'm not asking for the benefit of the doubt. All I'm saying is the evidence is there that he's lying, not just because he's confessing to the envious motive, not because he's showing the courts that he's lying and he's fabricating, but due to the fact that every single second I was overseas was under these tools that had my ears locked up. I could be talking in Antarctica and they would still have it on record, the time when I was overseas. That very second on record are these tools that are being used to lock up my brain savant, which means that Azamji has to be lying. It's impossible for him to be telling the truth, not in terms of asking for the benefit of the doubt. No, I'm not saying, oh, I'm innocent because there's no evidence of me being guilty, blah, blah, blah. No, what I'm saying is there's evidence that I cannot be guilty, due to which I'm innocent. And except for that, if that wasn't enough, which obviously is, and it's been scanned through right now, I know for a fact, because I know me, okay? I'm not a criminal. I'm not a bad person. They have brain data on me. I don't even think lowly about people. When I meet people, I love and respect every single person of every single kind, even brain data against me. There's not even any brain data against me. I gave assurances to the court that when I met the person who was an Orthodox Jewish person who told me about zinc being used, I told the courts that I gave him more love and respect than I did normal people, only because he had a beard and he was wearing something on his head. And I gave him more love and respect than normal people that I would meet, only due to the respect that I have for people of that kind who put themselves in society like that. They ignore women, they ignore money, and they do good in this world. I have enormous respect for people like that. They went through the brain data. They found out that I was telling the truth. One of the accusations made against me was that I used to watch Israr Ahmed, and apparently Israr Ahmed in his videos said some bad things, which is why they were using him. There isn't one instance of me watching any of those videos of his. Instead, it was due to my keenness and eagerness for learning that I used to watch Israr Ahmed, and I only watched his Quran videos where he would go verse by verse, going through each and every single part of the Quran, and the brain data showed that while reading through each part of the Quran and its commentary, I had the utmost love for people of other faiths, religions, and background, with that being the biggest piece of evidence for me. And when Israr Ahmed would talk about people of other faiths like Judaism, and he would talk about how the Prophet asked people to do things like start fasting on the day when the people of the Exodus had to fast for getting freed from the Pharaoh, I would have more respect in my heart for people of the faith of Judaism just because they had to go through that kind of hardships and their ancestors did. Just because of that, that is the kind of person that I am inside my heart. And the brain scanner evidence will prove that that's the kind of person I am in my heart. What I'm trying to say is, I'm not claiming benefit of the doubt over here. I'm not saying that, oh, there's no evidence of me being guilty, so I have to be innocent and you have to. No. What I'm saying is, there is evidence that I cannot be guilty. These tools on my brain savant, these ears, 2 months ago, June 24th, 2026, these ears were freed. If you have a video tape of that while I was driving and I was being tested, you will see how back these ears go. And my head from the inside, the brain scan will show, instead of being like this, it's like this. Zing, 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 zing. Which is why law enforcement doesn't want to test it out due to their sex addiction. And I could show you how bad their sex addiction is outside of my window. If anyone passes by, their face is going to look incredibly humiliated. And as soon as they see that I'm looking outside, they'll stop passing by. They will no longer pass by. That's how bad their sex addiction is, due to which they will not do a 30-minute brain savant test. But my point being that these tools can hear me in Antarctica. The entire time I was overseas is on record, every single second, and they went through every single second. I know this for a fact, that recently they went through every single second. mainly due to the fact that I watched The Godfather, and yes, when I was there overseas, and the scenes that I liked, they put up on there. Anyways, so they went through every single second that I was overseas, and they have these tools due to which they can hear every single thing that I say, every single second, which means that it's literally impossible for me to be guilty in the first place. Then, on top of that, you have Adamji showing how he fabricates. You have Adamji showing how he fabricates evidence to make that person look like I knew him really well. And then you have Adamji expressing his motive very in an extreme rage of envy, saying, I'm extremely envious of people like Hassan. I wish they would have gotten kicked out of their countries and thrown back to this country over here. Everything is there on file. There's phenomenal amount of evidence, ample amount of evidence of fabrication, lying, and my innocence, not claiming the benefit of the doubt. All I'm saying is the evidence is there. It's already been looked through, and they're only trying to mislead the courts due to extreme envy of me and due to people like Kelly from law enforcement sleeping around and asking these people to narrate against me. Not only that, you also have evidence of brain scan data, which is undeniable, unarguable, how I love people, how my love for people would increase, and how these accusations against me are not true. The videos of Israr Ahmad, I've never watched a single one, except for the ones on the Quran itself, where he reads it out verse by verse and tells you what it means and tells you the commentary for it. That's literally almost all I watched. I might have watched one video or so, except for those for when the Prophet went up to heaven. And that's it. Except for that, I haven't watched any of his videos. Okay, and even when I would be watching those videos on the verse by verse of the Quran, brain scanner data will clearly prove that I only increased in love for people. I never increased in hatred for people, ever. To the point that when Israr Ahmad is speaking of the Exodus and how Jewish people, people of Judaism and their faith would fast on the day that they had to go through the Exodus, my love for and respect for them would increase. And the brain scanner evidence will prove that. When I would meet people of other races, religions, ethnicities, just like how my mother raised me to be like, if I would see someone who would be dressed up differently with a beard or something on his head, I would treat him with more respect, only because I knew he wasn't running after women like other people are. Kelly and Kashif Feroz via Adnan Shamim, or running after money or doing any of these kinds of things. Okay, they're not motivated by sex or money or any of these kinds of things. They're good people, and the brain scanner data would prove that I had enormous respect for them due to me thinking of them as being good people. Okay, I'm not claiming benefit of the doubt over here. All I'm trying to say is the evidence for me is overwhelming. The evidence against people like Adamji being quoted is overwhelming. The evidence proving that it was due to the force and necessity of a single mother when I was being adult supervised as a child, registration being at the PAL Center, my mother asking law enforcement when I was an 11-year-old child, suddenly stopping as soon as I gained the slightest bit of mental maturity as a child, never for me to ever again be present in a setting where anything you remotely considered bad is ever said around me ever again, whereas law enforcement is still in that setting right now. They're eagerly pursuing sex games with Uncle Joey's in-laws, and I'm sure the money fraud already restarted by now. They're not going to stop for this long. So yes, their scenario is very clear to understand. Even before I was a child with at least be a mental maturity, there was no crime that occurred around me in the first place, no attempted crimes, no conspiracy to commit any crimes. And as soon as I gained the slightest bit of mental maturity as a child, I was not even remotely present in any settings where anything remotely considered bad could be said around me. Even never in my life in any crime scenes or anything of that sort of nature. But after I gained the slightest bit of mental maturity as a child, never even remotely present in any settings where anything remotely considered bad could be said around me. And before I gained the slightest bit of mental maturity as a child, it was only people like law enforcement's own BFFs like Uncle Joe. You could have said something bad around me. It wouldn't constitute a crime. It would only carry blame. But you have to understand the fact that the blame goes to Uncle Joey if he said it, and law enforcement for knowing about it, not doing anything about it. not my mother, since she wouldn't be present there, and not me as a child. And the moment I became liable under the law, gaining slightest bit of mental maturity, I was never even remotely present in any settings where anything even remotely considered bad could ever be said around me ever again. All right, thank you.